Zoom to live, Zoom to live, Zoom to live. This is Zoom to live. And eventually it ends up over on Twitch. And then maybe, if we're lucky, it ends up on YouTube also. Yeah, well, I mean, the icon says live, so that's a good start. And hey, if you're seeing this on YouTube also, that's a good sign. Maybe you're just seeing it on Twitch. Maybe you're watching elsewhere. I don't even know. But this is The Art of Rock, where we talk about the process and experience of making music, brought to you by the patrons of Angelspit. Our intrepid guide, Carl Zug von Rock, of that same band, can't be on the show this week because he's an in-demand audio professional doing professional stuff. I assume he might have lied. We don't know. But in the meantime, I'm helping to keep this show going, and my name is Razi. I'm from the band You Shriek. The land I'm on has been historically cared for by the people of the Massachusetts tribe, so I'm taking a moment right now to honor the first people who lived, worked, and loved the Boston area long before colonization. All right, everybody. Glad we can all be here. We did a little round of hellos before hitting any of the buttons. The buttons are now hit. And let's, if you don't mind, y'all, tell me a little bit about some successes and triumphs and challenges this week, just to sort of get the thing flowing. Ivan, do you want to start off with some stuff that happened, if anything happened?
Yeah, so earlier this week, saw the demo of the map VST over on Vulture Culture, and a quick listen to that VST really encouraged me to just go out and buy one.
Oh, that's what happens.
Yeah,
What's the name of the VST? MAP, map, math?
yeah,
What
yeah, map.
all right, tell
Yeah,
me a little bit about it before we, did you actually receive one, or is this just gear acquisition syndrome in action?
yeah, like I don't, I these days I really think hard about something before I buy it because I don't have a lot of income, so I can't just like spend money willy-nilly. But I gotta say, um, during the show, he was complaining about its lack of effects,
Uh-huh.
which like it does not have a lot of effects built in.
That doesn't sound like something you liked about it.
No,
That sounds like a
well,
challenge.
it feels more like a challenge. And yeah, like I've got other equipment. I've got like physical synths with no effects. The Alita Soviet synth. The only effect it has is awesomeness. You turn awesomeness from
So
dry to wet and then just crank it up
it
and
has
it's awesome.
and has an effect. It doesn't contain effects. It is
Exactly.
affective.
Um, and I gotta say, the map is pretty much the same thing for me. It's pretty good on its own. Like, because you can modulate so much stuff, um, which is great. It's able to sound crazy, which is even more great, like
Yeah.
the kind of crazy. Um, and then, like I've been messing with using inserts in Ableton, and so I've got it going through my light pedal for
Okay,
real.
so external effects like live external hardware effects.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is, like I'm very happy with that. And I
So
gotta
are you
say,
using this primarily for leads or noise effects? What did you find it to be the most useful for and inspirational about?
really good at doing pads.
Cool. So
And
it's poly or at least polyphonic, if not
it is able to
multi-timbral.
do poly, and it is, yeah. I think this is going to be very good for leads as well. And I'm currently working on an arrangement with it as so far as the pads. Um, and I just need to like make or find the right sound to act as the lead part. And I will be so far I'm really happy with it. Like it's cool. Uh, and they do have a demo, so let me dig up the URL for it.
Sure, sure, sure.
Right
Yeah.
here.
Pop that in the chat. If you want to put it over on the Twitch too, you can drop it.
But you know,
directly on there. It sounds fascinating. I don't quite have an idea of its scope and topology yet, though. If you want to just like wrap your uh, accolades up with the basics, is it a multi oscillator like
oh
analog
yeah, yeah.
subtractive type of device?
Uh, I, it's subtractive or additive. It
I mean,
like
it's got a filter. It's either got
it,
waveforms and a filter or
it's got
FM.
waveforms. It's got a waveform and two filters.
Okay, cool.
Um, and then two oscillators and noise and uh the UI is actually pretty well laid out.
All
So like
right.
finding things is fairly easy. Um, I need to spend some quality time just making patches for it, and then I'll be more knowledgeable. Right now, I'm using a modified version of one of the defaults,
That's a good place to start.
which is a great place to start.
At least
Also,
it's
as
making a
soon as you
noise.
start modifying the defaults, you quickly get into like scratch making new patches because
Yep.
now you're learning the stuff you need to know to make those patches.
Yeah. Well, it sounds pretty cool. Interested in checking out the UI at least, and if not, actually clicking on it. I I had something in mind that I picked up. I was I I guess before we go to Phoenix, I'll mention the things that I ended up finishing and doing this week, and one of them was a search for a downward expander. And I'm as an
Mm.
Ableton user, I usually just use the gate for those kinds of things with like a pretty high noise floor so it doesn't gate to silence and generous, gentle onset and release times so that it acts kind of like an expander anyway. But I was looking for a true envelope following type of experience in the same way that an expander does, but downward. And I had never really dealt with the difference between upward expansion, which if it gets a little louder, this will make it get a lot louder. So the 2-to-1 ratio means something that kind of got loud gets really fucking loud and it'll clip or do whatever. Not what I was looking for. I'm looking for the opposite of that, which is like quiet stuff should really get quiet, but loud stuff should maintain its same natural dynamics curve. I don't want to touch the loud things. I want them to stay at minus 18 dBFS or whatever. So I noticed the multiband compressor actually does have that kind of downward expansion. So, long story short, if you're looking for something to say, keep your guitar part out of the vocal mic a little bit, the multiband compressor tool, built-in stock tool, does have a downward expansion. I ended up using the gate anyway, but it's kind of a long roundabout to a little education about what the differences are. And they can be confusing when you just hear the buzzwords. And that's all in service of saying I put out a cover tune on my Patreon for a change, and I felt pretty damn good about it. So
Nice.
finished something and released it. I'm kind of psyched, even though I got sidetracked and learned about downward expansions.
You know,
Phoenix. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
it does remind me of a question that we could probably go into at some point, which would be, I'm sure you've been to live shows and the vocals are getting completely drowned out by the lead guitar and or the drums.
Yeah.
And like I think that's a subject
Yeah.
worthy
Definitely.
here.
Put a pin in that. I'm going to make a note of it. But I do want to jump over to Phoenix. I want to hear what you had going on this week.
So what I had going on this week is I made a song called Seraphic Algorithm and did a little bit of diving. I'm working on a 15th album right now. It's going to be about angels, demons, and spirits.
That's a lot of albums, my dude.
Yeah, uh,
Excellent.
I can't sleep at times, so I just make music. So the track is 6 minutes and 23 seconds. I took that from the Bible itself because in Isaiah 6, 2 and 3, it talks about the seraphim, but there's also other deeper meaning behind it because it starts as 6 minutes, but they have two wings on their faces, two wings that cover their feet, and two wings for flight.
Hmm.
So 6, 2 times 3. So, it all kind of like
A
smashes.
little
Yeah,
bit of numerology for inspiration.
numerology stuff. But yeah, I've been
Did you read it in the original Aramaic and or Hebrew and figure out what the
No,
numbers were from?
no,
I can't.
I'm not that I'm not good with linguistics. My
Only
grandpa.
point being sometimes the numerism of using
Oh yeah,
letters and words from the original
yeah, yeah.
languages can be a fun.
It I might look into that in the future, but I
Yeah.
mean, my grandpa knew like 8 languages. He's passed a long time ago, but I mean, he
Nice.
like knew 8 languages.
So what environment were you creating this work in, if
I
I
was
might ask?
creating it in Acid Pro 11 and just compiling tracks. And my best descriptor, of course, is a little bit of inspiration from ChatGPT, shifted around, changed around, but it's a good tool for describing things. And it's basically, let's see, it's a lot of ethereal pads and little clicks and stuff, but it's also, you kind of feel like you're rising up when listening to
Yeah.
the music. So
Are
it's
the sounds that you've employed found sounds? Are they whole composition sounds? And important
what?
stuff is happening screen left over there.
Oh,
Um, so
yeah.
yeah, my question was, where do you source the noises from? Are they mostly from generator instruments
It's
within
mostly from
Acid, or?
generator instruments and whatnot, and it's also from like packs from Producer Planet. And
Ah,
like people are like, oh, there's 2 different prices on Producer Planet, and of course there are. They want to make as much money as they can. There's one pack that's like, oh, this is about half the price, but you can only use it for personal viewing. You can get
right.
sued.
You don't get the license to
Yeah.
actually
So
redistribute.
I always buy the ones that are like, oh, this is a bit more, but I get royalty free. But yeah, that's what I go through, and it's on my SoundCloud for Ethereal
Cool.
Labyrinth. I also popped in an older song, simplifying Raphael, the Archangel,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of chorals in that one, and just very uplifting. But yeah,
That's
that's what
cool.
I've been working on this week. I've been trying to do my 15th album called The 15th Seal. So,
There's
also
something like
religious connotations in there.
yeah, I was gonna say there's like such a rich history in some of the mystical
Yeah.
and poetic aspects of religions. As a non-religious person myself, I still look back on my lyrics and I see, okay, there's the word faith, there's the word angel, there's the word
Well,
heaven.
I
Like
take
what?
things with kind of a grain of salt or sometimes a barrel full of salt.
Yeah, make it salty. Might
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
pickle it.
But I basically am doing it this way because I want to reach inside myself and find the peaceful and the darker aspects of my mind and kind of just smash it together in one album so everyone can be like, wow, this is what's going on.
That
So
sounds fantastic. And it does raise a couple of thoughts about where we find our motivation and inspiration, which I want to come back to. But
yeah.
Brett, I'm going to ask you what you did, even though you're just waking up and probably can't think straight, and maybe you're going to begrudgingly say a couple of things. But did you have any successes this week?
Yeah, I did
Any
have a couple.
challenges?
And yeah, challenges as well. So there's been 2 main things I've been working on this week, and they kind of go hand in hand together. One is a carryover from last week, which is, we were talking about, well, offline, of course,
Hmm.
we kind of met and whatnot. We were talking about and testing different streaming things. I did get it to work. I did actually end up utilizing the PreSonus and getting my channels to all right. So basically, as to kind of catch everyone up, last week we got to a point where the clarification was that what I'm seeing in FL Studio or SIO channels, and so in FL Studio I can grab 12 and 13 for example, and have a mic that is represented on the mixer. And when I get into Windows doesn't see it that way at all. It actually sees, bank 1 and
Right.
2, bank 3 and 4, bank,
This dawned on me after our conversation too, that it's just two separate universes. And we sort of hit that like as we were talking. Windows has an audio system. The music app has an audio system. They're not aware of each other and they don't work with each other, unlike my platform, which they're all going through one audio system.
So, yeah, exactly. And that's, so I started messing around with it. I did end up hooking up the PreSonus so I could have another way to get back into the system.
Physical loop
but-
back.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I'm doing is I do have a template I made in FL Studio now that does allow me to route between Windows and Mac. I'm sorry.
That other company that makes the mixer that you use.
Exactly. That's sorry. The XR.
Mhm.
Anyway, so and I did test that. I tested it both on Twitch and I tested it on Discord. And
Excellent.
in both cases, it worked, but I am finding that I also have to take a copy of that sound and within FL Studio. So FL Studio has its main out. What I actually have to do in order to make it work so that I can hear it and you can hear it is actually define the extra mics, these guys, allow them to come in. Then if there's a song, I have to route every single track to another bank where I can hear it on headphones.
Yep.
So that the main out can go out the streaming channel out.
Let's circle back to that exact routing. I do it too. That's the way that my stuff is set up. So this is chalked up as mostly a success, but needs more testing then. Do you think this applies to anything else in your studio? Like, is this going to open up anything for your music work, or is this like strictly dead end, but at least we'll get a mic hooked up for Zoom? I'm sort of curious, like
No,
how
this
you.
is so the kind of the idea there is to be a little bit more social with the creative process.
There you go.
And on Discord and things like that, I have actually been doing screen shares and and just using this camera that I'm talking to you on to kind of capture the room audio and actually Austin's been hanging out every now and then as well. And so the idea is to also expand that to Twitch. And I mean, I'm not going to be very good about, making nice, cleanly polished, edited videos. I just don't have it in me anymore.
That also
But,
leads into something I want to think about is like finding motivation and momentum specifically, and not having it in you is right on that topic. I've made a note of maybe coming back to how that works for you.
But yeah, I want to actually share the kind of the creative process. The other thing that I worked on this week, there is actually a song I'm working on, and that was part of that discussion that I dropped lyrics onto. So got through that entire volley, and so
Okay,
now
cool.
I'm on to polishing it. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope that like there's so much shit work, there's so much grunt work in whatever phase of the music stuff that we do. And as a matter of fact, we were talking a little bit before going live. The guy that was installing my broken HVAC looked at the back of the rack because it's around that side of the studio, and he's like, "You have so many wires," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, plumbing. Did you do the electrical system and the water stuff that you're doing? I mean, there's a lot of it, and yeah, there's bundles of wires everywhere, but this is there's a method to it, and every skill that we build, plumbing the audio lines and the video lines and the electrical lines so that they don't hum, the mic versus line levels, like these things, having a sense of expertise about them frees us up, hopefully, at some moment to switch into creative mode. And part of the discussion we're having is, can we move this? And it's my right hand pod for the rack of stuff over there. And I was like, it's got two cables, it's going from this side to that side. And I was like, I could start pulling stuff. There's no slack. It's just the length it needs to be. The wires are taut coming in and going out, and there's a third for the AC, they cross it. And he's like, yeah, no, I get it. And I'm like, looking at some of the stuff, and it's been connected for, some of those have probably been plugged in for 7-8 years and not had to move. Some of them get pulled out regularly, and we end up with knots that way. Things end up getting turned into a tangle. But the idea of, I don't know if it's mostly getting good at how to do the plumbing and recognizing when things are broken and having our hands on some of the tech stuff so that we can get to being in the creative mode, which I was able to do this week, despite, you know, that's something. That's something to say.
Absolutely.
Ivan, you've got your hand up. You want to jump back in on
Yeah, I
that?
got a couple of points. First on the plumbing. The third floor studio, I am pulling like an extra 1,000 feet of Ethernet just so I can ship audio across the room however I need to and get it in the places where it needs to be easily without making a mess. Because my goal is patch panel in the desk, and then everything's running through the patch panel. That way I'm only messing with the patch panel in the front of the desk. I'd like to believe that this is something that's going to work out for me. We'll see when I get there. Because if it turns into a mess, it's going to be a hell of a mess.
Are we going to get in trouble for talking about Ethernet, or you think we're okay?
I think we're okay today.
Are you going to run Dante or AES or Motu or something, or AVB?
I will be able to run Dante or AES or any of those.
There's
without
able
having-
to. I mean, I'm technically able to
without
also, and I
having to-
don't, but
without having to add a bunch of extra stuff.
yeah, plans.
Because the extra stuff will just already be there. In the meantime, though, I'm going to get those Ethernet audio adapters from Sweetwater, so I can just plug that in, plug
Analog.
audio into it, and just haul analog audio across the room.
I would like to underscore that distinction in talking about bundling balanced audio over Cat 6 or E cable is very different than sending digital audio streams over a network.
Yes,
This is-
absolutely is, because that doesn't require an Ethernet switch. There will
Matter of
be
fact, it would probably get in the way if you put an
It would
Ethernet switch
absolutely get in the way.
in the middle of it.
But there will be an Ethernet patch panel over in the patching corner of the room, and there will be a switch over there already. So I will have that ability because like the third floor is going to be semi-isolated from the rest of the house as far as networking goes, with like some trunks down to the main data room here.
It's good that you have a main data room to
Yeah,
to.
no, like I was going to have one of those.
Yeah.
It's just going to end up happening. And then
But
Phoenix.
do you have a dedicated telco closet, or is it just a main data room?
I do have a dedicated
Okay.
telco area,
Okay, good.
and whenever I've changed my telco out, like changed providers, I have demanded to them that they follow the rules of the house and only come into the house via the DMARC. And so I have a house with a DMARC.
So are you wired on the A or B? What is it? It's A or B Ethernet standard. I forgot the number. There's a 4-digit number that precedes it that I wish I had for this joke. It would have been
yeah, and don't remember the number, but I'm on A.
843 9A or B. Crossover versus not crossover. White, orange, orange, white, green, blue, white, blue, green, white, brown, brown. You know, that's. Shut up.
I've made so many cables through my lifetime that like just making a crossover is easy peasy.
Yeah, it's hard not to talk about
and
wiring
I've
cables
got
when you've wired a lot of cables.
I've got a orange Home Depot box that is just data and telco. Nothing else.
What?
Separate from
like a
separate from
storage. Okay.
Separate from the orange Home Depot box that is my electrical box.
Ivan, did you record anything with your new synthesizer that you downloaded, or did we just worry about networking?
I have recorded. I've been starting to put together a piece with it, and I'm happy so far.
I'm just making sure. This is the cover your ass so we don't get into trouble.
And then Phoenix, I have a suggestion for you. There's a VST you might want to check out called Life. I posted the link to it. Oh, no, let me post the link to it. Life is good stuff. It might help you get a little further. It will get you a little further away from using like other people's yeah, samples for doing drums. And the cool thing with life is you could take just take your phone, go out into the wild and go on a sound safari. Like I would highly suggest hop on an Amtrak train and just record the sounds of it starting and rolling. And then you dump that into life and it will turn that into a beat.
Um, Phoenix, do you have anything to say back to that? Or like maybe there's some theory or philosophy that either agrees or disagrees with where Ivan's going there. I can jump in too. I'll give you a minute. Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, I would like to get it, but currently I don't have money.
There is a demo, so you can try it out at least.
Okay, I'll try out the demo.
And right now it is like half off or 40% off, 49% off,
Yeah.
49% off. And
Um, there, yeah. So there's two things that are really that coming to mind right on this, and there's sort of the philosophy of like where you draw the line about originality and what do you like invent the universe so that you can bake a pie, or do you just go to the store and get the pie? And in the same way, like if you derive inspiration from sounds that are fairly complete and produced, you should probably pay attention to those sounds that are fairly produced and complete. If, as Ivan was describing, he wants to go back to a single synthesizer and make it go bzzzt and build it from there, and that's your inspiration, and you can still get things done. That's also a valid path. And I think we've got a pretty good sense of what we've all worked on this week, and I wouldn't mind exploring a little bit if anybody's got anything to say about where you tend to draw that line. Maybe it's moving. Maybe you always start with the zero patch that makes no noise. Maybe you always start with a sample loop or a found sound. When you're moving from, say, discovery to creation, or trying to get to getting it down on paper, so to speak, and having something recorded, inspiration, motivation, and production, like all together. Where do you draw the line on sounds and composition and pieces and elements that go into your thing? Phoenix, your hand's still up, and we sort of left off with you. So if you want to jump in on that, I'd love to hear.
So where I draw the line with things is I'm really comfortable with just using loops that I purchase. And I have a pretty busy life because I have chronic illness. I have severe fibromyalgia. So, and I'm mildly allergic to the sun. So the joke is I'm a vampire. So I don't go in nature unless it's completely dark out. So I might take Ivan's advice and go out like around my area at night and maybe capture a few sounds with that thing if I can afford it, you know. But
hey,
I'm not good with
I want to jump in on free also. Like whatever's in your pocket will record some stuff.
Oh yeah,
you can do
yeah.
field recordings on it. I mean, yeah, nice to buy a mic or a device, but yeah, please go on.
But basically, I can only do things most of the time at night, or if I have to go out, like say to a doctor's appointment, I have to completely cover up because otherwise I get really tired or I get a little queasy, and nobody likes feeling that way usually.
Yes, sir.
So I take a lot of inspiration from, oh, this is already created, and I just listen to all the different things, and I'm like, okay, this will go good here, 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 here. And it's kind of like I just get into this focal zone where I'm like, and everything just kind of falls into place.
Man, that's what we're looking for, isn't it? That's fantastic.
There are other inspirations I've been taking recently. Like I'll hear a song I really, really like, and I'll go like, I'll play the song in the background, and I've only done this for like 2 or 3 songs recently. I'll play the song in the background, and then I'll start creating my own song on top of the song. And then I'll remove the song, and I'll be like, wow, my song sounds awesome. And it's completely different and alien from the other song, but this actually works. So like I'll take another song as inspiration, but my stuff will sound completely different.
Highly relatable. I've said it before. Sometimes the bottom track and my scroll down. Oh, yeah, there's the song, verse, chorus, Bowie
Well,
tune or something.
also,
Like,
I've noticed if I play all of my songs at the same time of one album, like there's a way I can do that as in SoundCloud before I
Mhm.
release my thing. I'm like, I play them all at the same time. I'm like, shit, they're harmonizing very well. Like
I mean
it
that.
could be a song itself,
Yeah,
you
that
know?
elevates it to experimental or
Yeah,
installation art or something that can work. Put them
yeah,
all on individual players or speakers and set up a gallery.
yeah, and I've been told that my stuff is super experimental, and they're like, "How do you do it?" I'm like, I, I just don't sleep sometimes.
Sacrifice.
So that's what I got.
Nice. Brett, what are you thinking about?
In regards to like inspiration and things like that, um, I use a few different things. So lately I've been experimenting more. FL Studio has kind of a random beat generator. Um, really, it's kind of like Austin saying, or it's kind of like Phoenix is saying. I'm sorry. Um, where some sort of sound source kind of helps get the ball rolling a bit. Now, that's also where I like playing with these guys because now you can start creating, you can start doing your own sound design. Um, Recently, I discussed picking up Omnisphere, and part of the reason for doing that is a lot of the sounds and such that I was hearing that ended up being kind of Genesis or kinds of sounds um, seem to come from there. So my thought is, okay, if I go down the same paths and whatnot that get the ball rolling as usual, meaning if I do grab a sample or I do something on sound design and then get looped into a riff that I've made, um, then it it becomes the thing that kind of perpetuates it, I guess, is the sounds that from after. So
Hmm.
there's kind of like a seed element to it, right? Um, and I'll give an example like the one I'm working on now. It just started. I just came in here and went, on one of the synths, and then I was like, yeah, that patch with that and that combination sounded cool. Let me record that real quick. And when I say record, I just drop the MIDI of it, got the machine to do it over and over again. And then I start building around that. Um, so the seed inspiration comes from a lot of different places. Often a sound helps.
Hmm.
Uh, but that same song ended up having a malfunction, and that became actually one of the core instruments. And
Super. That's important.
yeah, so what happened was the FL Studio crashed, and when it crashed, I lost control of the DAW, and the DAW had started playing everything at once, but also super slow,
Which is like Phoenix's album, apparently.
right?
So you guys,
So you're talking about the thing in your pocket. On my home screen is literally all right there is recorder.
oh man, I am going to assign my smart button to record instead of whatever the hell it is. There's already
Yeah,
one. There's a camera button, but the other one is going to be. I think it's like magnifier viewer for old people who can't see. I'm going to switch that
yeah,
to record
to
something.
record.
I
That's
like
right.
it.
And so whenever something like that happens, and there is a something that is occurring in the wild, I've almost always got a recorder ready to go, and I've got no problems dropping that into a Google Drive, sharing it, and also at that same time taking the parts of it that inspired me and ripping it to shreds.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't gone out like intentionally field recording in a while, and that there's kind of a refrain here among all of us is thinking about remembering to do that. I have to remind myself, but the amount of times that a somewhat interesting sound out in the wild, removed from that environment and put into your speakers and your headphones and turned up loud and maybe clipped and distorted a little bit so that the nuances of what's around it are recontextualized into the isolated space of your own head without the place that it was. That's a magical thing. It's
Real good.
powerful and it's transformative just in of itself, which is sort of the nature of sampling we're talking about, is like that recontextualization. And I don't know if I've lost the sense of wonder about it, but you do a few thousand of these things over a couple of decades and it's like, you know what to expect. Or the point being, if you don't keep doing it, you won't get the surprises. You have to be capturing the things, even though it's, maybe.
I will tell you, that actually led to a discussion that I had with one of my musician friends last night.
Yes.
And we constantly joke about not having a recorder on at all times for a lot of the stuff we end up saying that may crack us up or whatnot. But it dawned on me that even if we did, we wouldn't be able to use half of it because of copyrights.
Right,
We'll have like a radio or something on over here, and all that becomes useless. So you even have to be really careful with your field recordings.
There's curation. The curation is a art and science or craft anyway, in and of itself. And I sort of liken it to if you're going to truly simulate the whole universe, you've probably got to have a processor capable of being the universe anyway. So, right. Boy, that's a tautology of some sort. If you're recording all the time, if you don't mark it or make session notes or something, then you can't relive all of your real-time life to go back and curate the thing because you're going to run out of life at the end of it. So the seizing and curation and intentionality and stuff is tough. And honestly, I get behind on photography way more than as an example of this. Like, I shot 1,000 photos, the time span of the photos still exists, but you got to go back and take out the ones that are bad, and it takes almost the same amount of time as what you lived. Ivan, you've got your hand up. Please jump in.
Yeah, I pretty much live with this,
cool.
On me when and wherever possible. Particularly when I'm like watching TV or something, because I will just hit record and suck out that sweet, tasty, copyrighted goodness. Kind of have two layers of songs. There's the stuff that I would play live that is going to use this stuff, and then the stuff that I'm gonna sell that does not, because I've gotten fairly self-protective of myself over the idea of getting like in trouble for using a loop that wasn't clear or stopped being clear because somebody else claimed it, and so on and so on and so on, because like that's a whole big ass can of worms, which is why I for my recorded like released stuff, I tend to avoid using other people's loops regardless of whether or not they're claiming it's clear, because I don't assume that it's going to stay that way. Somebody's going to claim it at some point ahead of me, and it will then stop for all practical purposes being clear. And I don't want to have to worry about getting lawyers involved to save my work. I just want to have my work.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it's definitely a difference between me and Phoenix. Like, I definitely appreciate what you're doing, Phoenix, but I can't find myself like messing around in that space just because of my ability to compulsively worry over, the idea of just like getting my commercial stuff decommercialized by a lawyer.
Yeah. And there's a lot of confusion about what licenses confer what rights for real, and reading it and worrying about it is kind of a thing. I actually want to mention two things that happened to me, I guess this past 2 weeks. But before we do that, I think there's a discussion to be had about worrying about it or not worrying about it. And obviously, if you're doing your stuff where other people are going to be affected, like somebody's assigning it for sync in a show, and you're telling them it's cleared, and it may be not exactly cleared because some of the loops were a commercial product and you didn't read the license, now we're in one category. However, if you're about to sell about 100 of these things to people that you kind of know and expect where they're going, and maybe you're skirting the law a little bit, maybe you didn't worry too much about whether, it's not even a gray area. It's illegal by certain laws, but it's also very commonly transgressed. So which do you spend your time worrying about?
Bingo.
And go ahead. Yeah.
It would, we really need to invite Miss Crystal, the lawyer. She does a show on Wednesday nights as well, to join us at some point, because she makes our kind of music as well. So
Yeah.
she would have played.
It's always a little uncanny when she switches to singer mode and like takes her hair down.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay, the glasses on, glasses off. I get it.
Yeah. But like she has very good insights on how all of this stuff works, and like we have bad insights at best.
I want to jump in after Phoenix. You probably have some thoughts about the back and forth, about levels of finishedness and completeness of the elements that we're working in our stuff, Phoenix.
So basically, the reason I don't worry is because I read all the licensing stuff from Producer Planet, and supposedly they would get in trouble. Supposedly, but you know how that goes. I just didn't like, you know what? I'm making music. I want people to enjoy it. I've paid my thing. I have digital receipts of each thing I've paid for the licenses for. If someone else uses the similar thing and makes a similar song using the similar sound packs and says, well, this whole thing is mine. Well, my song's different. It's even if it's different by a little bit, possibly, so I myself don't worry, because I made $12 this year off music. What are they going to do? Sue me for $12?
I mean, yeah, but you get to claim as a professional musician with an income from music. So
$12.
It's
but
official.
There is one musician that I followed when he was like smaller, and now he's like super big, and his name is Ven Gent, and he actually takes a bunch of different sounds from out in the world, and he does the beats to it. And you've probably seen him on social media. He has like the tiny little glasses and stuff, and kind of rocking a lot. But I mean, had some conversations with him when he still had a Patreon before he signed all his deals and stuff, and really awesome person, really, like, he always wants people to vibe and this and that. And I don't know, his music's great, because he's like, oh, I heard this machine going off, cutting this metal over and over. So he just recorded just that, and then he put a bass line behind it, and then he amped it up to like 12 after that, and it's great. So in regards to you saying people sampling sounds that are out in nature, so he does that kind of stuff.
Right. I used to have a very purist attitude here, and it was like I wanted to take it all the way back to the oscillators, whatever it was. Start with a buzzy patch with 2 sawtooths and no filters and stuff. I used to, at the exact same time, be fascinated with taking a drum break and looping it and turning the bass up and changing the speed and degrading it a little bit. And it's like reconciling those two things. And there's a documentary, I think Kirby Ferguson, Everything is a Remix, that many years later, after I got over myself and embraced the found sounds, goes into the history of recontextualization of fully composed parts into your own work and transformative work, and the idea of creative inspiration through listening to really cool stuff and putting your own elements on top of it. And I think it's pretty utopian to think of a place that we can just do that with impunity and be trusted not to infringe on people's rights to control their own work as artists. Obviously, it gets very confusing, because on both, personally, I use the stuff. I have grabbed people's fully composed music and dropped it on a track and built a song over it and left their music in my song for sure. But I've also written a lot of songs that are what I would hope to be sampleable in that same way. And I don't know if I want to donate them and not get credit if it makes a fucking billion selling banger. Somebody does it. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't have to worry about it. Hasn't really happened all that much that I know of. But it's an interesting thing to contend with. And to the extent that that enters into what I worry about personally when creating, not 2 years ago, I'd say none. And then I signed a sync licensing deal, not a actual assignment, but with an agent. And I had to go through all my stuff and really see if I actually had the rights to everything that was in it. And I ended up finding a lot of tracks that are like, oh my God, that's a vocal needle drop from a record. That's a piece of speech from a movie. And I spent a lot of time taking those parts out and doing mixes to submit to them that didn't have those, because I had to attest that everything in my tracks that I was about to send to them, they could confidently tell a music supervisor that, yeah, you can put this on your show and not pay royalties to 7 different people. You only have to pay sync licensing to the publisher, songwriter, owner of these tracks, who also has the mechanical license, single source, one stop, boom, done. Makes it easy for them. And you know what? Maybe it'll matter sometime. Maybe the effort that I went into removing those things will have been fruitful, but the songs wouldn't have existed without the inspiration from those original tracks, and the songs wouldn't have been finished and done and existed without including those sampled other people's stuff in them. And I think, man, if anything is the crux of motivation and inspiration, it's hearing a good tune, like. And the weird Ouroboros that we're talking about is you're trying to make a tune by being inspired by a tune. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's important to even worry about in your day-to-day stuff. Brett, talk to me. Am I onto anything that makes you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I will say that we kind of came at this from maybe opposite ends of the spectrum to kind of get to the same place. So early on, I mean, my training musically is snare and bass drum, those 2 instruments. So the thing that it taught me was rhythm, for sure. And so my early forays into industrial were all about ripping apart samples and noises from movies and culture. And I didn't know a dang thing about copyrights. I was a kid living in the woods. So I've had entire bands worth of libraries that can't be played in today's market. And over the years, I've gotten, I'm not going to say purist. I'm going to say inspired by the things I was sampling. And that there's a give and take, because I started with acid and everything as well. When early on, I was mixing acid with Cakewalk, with Fruity Loops before they were FL Studio. And then, you had samples and everything else. I had the DX7. The DX7 was largely driving VSTs at that time. So there was also a lot of pirated software during that time. That's what I could do, and how I afforded my hobby. And I guess I kind of took the approach of, well, since this is my hobby, not my profession, I was more into the actual. I still am more into the creation than I am the tools that created it. So I guess that's a long way of saying, over the years, I kind of got tired of, I got to where I wanted to be able to publish stuff. I didn't want to be sued. And so that necessarily means you kind of have to strip away some of those things. And
Right.
Where it comes today, of course, there's the discussion about, whether or not a loop or something you pay for and have licenses to, whether or not they'll honor that license, things like that. But I still kind of argue for the ability to do so, because I mean, even when I was learning drums, it was always on other people's songs.
Yeah. I mean, that's the exact soul searching introspection that you go back to. Like, I'm using stuff that's in the zeitgeist and in the history and in the corpus of Western rhythm and African and European rhythms, and we're standing on the shoulders of giants, whatever the metaphor is that you want to use. If you do something so devoid of context that it's alien to people, you're talking about something very different than making rock music and pop and stuff that we do. And that may be a challenging and interesting endeavor, but it's definitely not at the heart of what we're doing. We're looking for the balance of working within these very specific and familiar tropes and rules and constraints, and making some variety and putting our own personality on it by combining different elements. It's not really invention. It is, I mean, I guess maybe that is the definition of an invention, is some sort of combinatory act, but the amount of novelty is relatively low. I mean, we're working mostly in 12-tone equal temperament in tempos between 60 and 130, and the instruments are probably going to be recognizable guitars and drums and stuff, and the elements are going to be arranged in melody and harmony. So there's a lot of like expectations that we set up with, where you know, you fall outside of those things and you're instantly experimental. I listened to Elaine Walker of Zia, who I used to work with in Boston, released a track yesterday that I got a notification for, and her work is microtonal a lot. She's always worked outside 12-tone equal temperament into different divisions of the octave, and to varying levels of appeal to me and what I would refer to as success. It definitely sounds either wrong or experimental or interesting or surprising. And I really enjoyed this particular track. I think it was AI Zombie Friends was maybe the title. Anyway, it's a good example of one of the little constraints that nobody, you know, who's trying to do dance floor or, you know, goth industrial music, really nobody works outside a major or minor key, maybe something slightly modal, and to take it fully outside of even this 12-tone thing and put in some notes between the notes, it's ear-bending and it's surprising, and it's you know, instantly, you know what I'm saying. I think you have to listen to it to really get the idea of what that does to your ear. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. One of the things I love to do are take I'll grab the DX7 and the Casio, for example, because they can make the weirdest noises, and literally turn them on noise and try to make something atonal, rhythmic first, and then pitch it. That's always a fun experiment, because you always come up with something cool.
Yeah. Let me give Ivan a chance to jump back in.
And the back in the day, I worked at Midway Games, and I think one of the problems that the world's gotten right now is it's gotten way too easy to cut and paste things, and so that mixes your work with other work really fast. When I was at Midway, though, like two things. One, you never wanted to get a phone call from the legal department.
Oh, right.
That'll
train you.
Was going to result in a weird conversation out in the parking lot, where all of the really important legal conversations actually took place at Midway. And then also, we spent an inordinate amount of effort to protect the like presence and quality of our IP. So, you know, at the beginning of a project, a new Perforce box would get spun up. We were experts at it because we were doing it so often. And then that box would live for the entire project. Like every revision ever made to the code base for that project was stored on that Perforce box. At the end of the project, the assets for that project would get loaded over to Art Database and preserved for everybody in the company to reuse. But the box itself would then just get kind of frozen and shipped off to Iron Mountain so that should the time come, they could just plug it back in and it would start working again without worry. Because as soon as like a game would like get popular out in the wild, the legal challenges against that game would almost immediately
They'd
start.
mount immediately. So you need the audit trail and the evidence
Yeah,
chain of, yeah.
and like that saved us every time, like because we had the material. We could
Yeah, that is so incredibly corporate and big, heavy industries. I'm not positive how that applies. Do you feel that? Do you must have taken that away a bit into your own personal work and being
I
influenced. Yeah.
I have.
I'm back on that topic of like the way I used to think and the way I think today. Like, yeah, you can still go back to your multi-tracks and remove the offending samples if somebody wants to use a thing. Just be ready to do the remix. I mean, the demand for this stuff is low. It's not like it's going to ruin my ability to go rock out and make new tunes because a person might want to license a track. And it's like, yeah, multi-tracks are available, or stems are available, or sessions are available. I can make modifications.
Yeah, and then it's super nice to always have that stuff.
Yeah.
My directories are getting gigantic, but I mean the good thing is I can be like, oh, I had a bass sound for this particular song that was freaking awesome. I can go digging through the like projects, find that bass sounds track, and just pull the whole thing over to what I'm working on right now and reuse it because that is super handy. Like I really love being able to do that.
Yeah, and it's only audio. You say it's big, but I mean, try doing that with video and
Yes, yeah, no, and with video it is way worse. Because yet again, being into music or audio production or video, like these turn us, we're doing the creative, but we're also like acting as like IT librarians at the same time, kind
yeah,
of by
yeah.
default.
Um,
And we just need to be okay with that because it's part of the business.
I want to jump in before you, Phoenix. The thing that I was thinking of is I did something with, oh yeah, the cover tune that I put out. A couple questions about releasing it came up, and I realized how far out of the practice and mindset of statutory songwriter and publisher rates are. Last time I did a cover that I knew I was selling and would need a license for, you go on Harry Fox agency, you pay the 11.92 cents per track, and they deal with it from there, whoever the songwriter slash publisher is on the tune. I don't even know what you do right now. And it didn't affect me working on the stuff. I got these tunes done, but now, like thinking about what I can do with them, I might not even really be able to give them away because that's still promotional. So putting them up on Patreon behind a paywall, it's a cover tune. I'm not positive who I owe, if I owe, like an actual publisher and writer share for what I did with it. I'm going to find out more about that as the weeks progress, but there's encumbrances. And I know that there are some digital distributors that will handle the writer publisher share of that. I guess it generates a sync royalty for, a mechanical royalty for transcribing it to a digital stream as if you were transcribing it to a phono record. So it's a mechanical. Confusing. And I know that YouTube handles it pretty transparently for sync by content ID. So if it finds you're using somebody's published work that's synchronized to your video, they just give it to them. whatever. They can they'll claim it and take the monetization for your thing. But there's so many of these nuanced little rights and stuff that I try not to worry about when I'm about to make a song, because traditionally, as a troubadour, I just want to go and play my repertoire of classic Gary Newman tunes and be free to do it. But am I performing in an ASCAP licensed BMI house that's paid the royalty fee so that the writers get the share? I don't fucking know. I'm out in the field with the goddamn, jester bells on my head. Who knows? Hopefully that's entertaining.
Yeah, that quickly turns into it would be super handy if we could just get, we really need to, reach out to, Miss Crystal and see if she wants to join us on one of these.
Get a lawyer. That's what it sums up to. Get a fucking lawyer.
Because it's get a lawyer. And like the nice thing with like YouTube these days is if you post a cover to YouTube, like a full-on cover, they will handle all that back end stuff for you now, because that's part of the.
Wait, which distributor? I missed. I zoned out
YouTube,
for a second.
YouTube.
Oh yeah, no, YouTube. They don't handle anything. They just let the owner claim it and take your money, if you were going to have any money anyway. Unless you're talking about songs that aren't synchronized to video, but. Songs that aren't. Then that's covered under your streaming royalty.
Your cover of the song is, they take care of the logistics of getting the covering done.
Citation needed. I want a source for that, because I'm not positive that they do, and I'm very interested.
It actually might be her show.
Yeah.
Also, that does not cover you for like putting it up on SoundCloud and letting people and charging people for it. That's different.
Oh God, I'm so guilty. Yeah.
We all are at one point or another.
Oh, fair enough. Hey, Phoenix, will you set us straight legally and cite some statutes and sections and laws?
I don't really know any of the statutes or laws. That's not my
good.
expertise. So
I appreciate that.
I just make music. I pay for the royalty license things. And if they're like, Will, this song is made kind of elsewhere and different with the same sound pack, I'll be like, I bought it from these dudes. Go after them.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. Right.
Here's my receipt saying I can use this, and go after them.
I think that's probably the right attitude. Like, I don't have any qualms with that. But the one thing that it does run into is, and I got to run into this myself, is when you want to assign the administrative duties to somebody else, you do have to be able to pass that to them. Yeah. If you do that. If you're never going to do it, it doesn't matter. But it's kind of like being a good industry player kind of part of the creative work is, like, what am I going to do with this? If I hand it to somebody and tell them it's one thing and it's another, then it's my culpability and I'm being the asshole. But if you are straight on royalty free, you know what your license is for the stuff, and you're making music, like, end, good, done.
That's why I do it, because someone else could be like, oh, well, I made this song and you don't have actual licenses behind your song. And it's like, but I recorded the sound outside, by a lake. They could try to be like, oh, back and forth, I mean, the likelihood of it going to court is just as low as it's ever been, especially with, me selling 12 of something or you selling a few thousand of something, whatever it is. Like, get into the millions area and people are interested. Two albums this year.
You could have just gone with what I was giving you, but if you insist on self-deprecation, so be it.
I insist on honesty.
Fair enough. I also had another thing that came to mind, and this is, I don't know how much I want to dwell on this, but just to bring it into focus, when we're talking about the different rights and the different royalties and money streams that are generated when a musical transaction money happens, there's a lot to deal with. All of the charts are different. All of the different connections to the songwriter and the publisher and the recordist and the musicians on it have different tendrils leading into different areas. And the best way that I've conceptualized it is starting with the sale. When a sale is generated, when money changes hands, rather than thinking of it where the inherent rights of the work that led to confusion. I'm not going to try to go through that because I'm not good enough at saying it and I don't have the practice with it. But I ran into something weird. ASCAP sent me a notification that there were new works added to my repertoire. And I was like, no, that's ridiculous. And I ignored it for a couple of days and was busy with other things, like actually recording a video and being a musician. And I looked at it and it's like sub-company audio socket, my song title, all tracks from an album from 10 years ago. I think it's 10 years, whatever it was. It was the previous album. And I'm like, oh no. They're claiming publisher and songwriter parts. I don't know if it was 50% or 100% on a bunch of tracks. And I'm like, what? 10 years ago or 7 years ago, there's no point in my life where I would have given up a piece of my songwriter shares on these things. I mean, maybe publishing, maybe assigned publishing, but the songwriter part, this is insane. So I had Chappie write up a couple of letters about what was going on, and I sent one to ASCAP and one to the company that I assumed was claiming these things, and it was Audio Socket. And they eventually got back to me and said, yeah, you signed up with us a ton of years ago, and now we're exercising whatever. And I'm like, that's a really long time to go without doing shit with my tracks. You're just getting to this now? I mean, I've become gray in the interim. I grew a beard. These are things that indicate time has passed. I don't even remember what I did, but that's pretty much where I'm at with it right now. I know that Audio Socket agrees that they did this, but at what point I explicitly granted them a writer share of those songs to do whatever the fuck it is that they do. I don't know, man. I don't think I did that. And I would assume that everybody knows that that's the story about how songwriters get screwed, is when you give up your songwriter shares of the published or your publisher share, whatever. But the songwriting, you want to own that. You want to keep your catalog so you can sell it for $17 million when you're trying to retire. Anyway, paging Miss Crystal. Very interested. Since you mentioned it, I have been several times. I might have to talk to her. I don't know. I don't know if I need lawyers involved. I got to go look at the contract. I'm very interested in what actually happened with that. And hopefully I'll have some follow-up in at least a month or so when I can be arsed to look at what I signed and then dispute it and ask them nicely to just don't do that. Should be the end of it. I don't think that I need their services, whatever they do. I don't think I want to assign anybody a piece of my songwriting for any reason. It's probably going to be 0% or 50% of zero anyway, so I don't care. But it's an interesting thing that, I don't know, it plays into a little bit of what we're talking about. I'm able to ignore it and still get work done. It's right up in the ownership and, like collaboration and participation in the presentation of yourself. It's a weird thing to have happened. Anyway, I'm going to look into it. Hopefully I'll have some updates on that. Phoenix, you thinking about that?
So I did a check with ChatGPT, and it says what royalty-free means is once you purchase content, you don't owe existing royalty or licensing fees as long as you put it in a creative work. Like you put all these riff files together.
You cannot re-release this as a collection or a package without doing a derivative work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
that's a good point.
If you try to be like, oh, well, I made this thing I just bought. No, you can get sued that way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just do that, let's see, Magix, which I go through, which is the producer Planet,
the owner
Magix
owns creator them. Of the software that
says, basically, there's no obligation to credit them or pay them any fees once you pay the initial fee. So you can make songs with it, but you can't upload just the single things because let's see.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that there's now a gradient of legal gray area that's been introduced. Obviously, yeah, if you release it as a collection and call it your own, you're running afoul of the agreement. But if you just rap over it, I did a lot of recordings when I was doing, rap artists here in the studio they bought a beat. I don't know what their agreement was with the beat producer. All they did was vocal over it. Nothing else. We didn't modify it. We didn't change it. That's modification. But I don't know if you can just do that with one of these loops. Is it enough substantive change?
What it is you could just put down one loop as long as you're having something added to it.
Anything added. How about really quiet white noise that is undetectable by the human ear?
I that would be a gray area in my mind.
Yeah,
because
it's ad absurdum, I understand,
yeah.
but it isn't, just pointing out that there is at least
Mm-hmm.
a spirit of the rules that they agreed to, and the word of the rules that you agreed to with them. And we know where that line is. It's someplace past
there's
that.
also third party things. You have to be more like if you go to a third party site, it says restrictions on commercial use, limitations on resale and broadcast, and we have to attribute the third party once we buy it from it. So we have to give
when somebody else gets involved, there's definitely a discussion. And frankly, even though you've got that agreement for royalty-free use, reinterpreting, putting it in your works is contractually agreed between you and the producer of the works, does not mean that a sync licenser will accept it. They don't have to. They can say no loops, doesn't matter. Don't care what your agreement is with them. That's their prerogative. If they're a sync licenser that deals with music supervisors that don't want the trouble ever, they may just say, yeah, cool tune. I wish it didn't have that loop in it. If you can't say there's 0 royalty-free loops in it, then sorry. Not that should ever worry you, because when this comes up, if you're worried about assigning, admin to a sync licenser for your music, then you worry about that stuff. Well, deal with it then. If you're not assigning anybody the rights, don't worry about it. Make some tunes.
But I'm just going to make it how I make it and see what happens because I'm doing what I think is within the law. So,
law's one thing. The contract agreement that you made with the producer is really the crux. That's the focus. And as you understand it, you're doing the right thing and using it as it's supposed to be used. And I think that's a way to get to making music. And it fades right into the creative inspiration because I know this piece goes with this piece. Now you're making stuff. Now you're reinterpreting and you're being a creative person making something. And that's
what I also see on Producer Planet is they also have all the stuff you bought. So in case possibly you run into issues, you'll be like, no, it's right here. And this says royalty free. So but I gotta head off now, but it was wonderful being with everyone.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, definitely. Good talking to you, man. Thanks for the perspectives on everything. Really appreciate that. Brett, what are you thinking about?
This has been a common topic for us. And one thing that, just kind of, I guess, dawned on me, where it comes to like derivatives and everything like that, so many of our tools essentially synthesize sounds. Yep. So we can, at some point, you've mutilated that thing so badly, it's yours.
so badly. Done so much damage.
That's right.
Talking about like the going back to what I used to think, like I was like, I'm mangling this thing so far out of joint that it's not even going to be detectable. There's no way that the original, does that make it okay? Different discussion. It is what I did. I was inspired. I found creative motivation.
Well, and I guess I mentioned that because it is a good way to get the kind of zeitgeist of a song.
Yeah, we call it stealing its soul, sucking its soul right out of its
or
neck.
Referencing it. But our genre has always done that, and ours is not the only one. Hip hop follows.
Certainly, the birth of hip hop being the two turntables and an MC is clearly.
And the whole sphere of DJs, where we've had Adam talking to us about, his experiences there. So I don't know. I think there's something to also be said, I guess, to where if you're not really taking an effort to modify it somehow, then maybe you are ripping them off.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Totally fair. That cuts right to the chase. Yeah. I mean, we haven't really, I think Ivan's wanted to say something about being a ripoff a couple of times, but that's hard to do. I mean, you've really got to be stepping in it to be truly ripping something off, I think. Or maybe I'm just guilty of it and don't want to admit it. I don't know. But
The reason we've got so many laws around this now is because there were people that were essentially doing that.
yeah, but the that is so many different things. The that is reselling the exact recording on your own label that you just made up. The that is making a song that sounds like it. The that is ripping off a chord progression from the thing. The that is ripping off a melody from the thing. And now we're into protected territory where we've agreed as creative people and a culture of people that listen to our music that you cannot do that. Chord progression's okay. Similar music, okay. Likeness, imitative, actual melody. Oh, no, the melody is what's unique and sacred. So these are, it's a lot that we've sort of come up to an agreement on. I don't know. I guess there's only, like 12 notes, man. Like, the fuck?
There's a limited number of everythings.
Yeah.
I mean, they were trying to protect chord progressions for a while there, and I think it was chord progressions, but like that has gotten done away with by like just generating all of the available possible chord progressions and then dumping them out onto the world as free to use.
I wanted.
Uh,
Go ahead. Sorry.
back in the olden days, back in the like Vivisect days, like Skinny Puppy was really good at using a lot of stuff that would get you in a lot of trouble right now.
Brilliant collages.
And they were great because of how well they did it. And they were not, just playing, the sample in the background. I mean, I can't remember which song it is, but the Do Not Forgive Me for What I Have Unleashed Unto This World from The Evil Dead is played back so slow underneath one of the songs that, the only way you'd notice it is high-speed dubbing recording to recording, because then it would pop out and you'd hear it and be like, oh, well, that's in there. Well, that's cool. And then, like, and then you move on.
I recently listened back to Thrill Kill Cult. What album was I listening to? The one that we're if we're talking about samples, makes sense to be talking about Daisy Chain for Satan and
Confessions of a Knife.
Confessions of a Knife. Thank you. But I was doing it with the crib sheet about where the samples were from, and then going back to the original works and stuff. And that is one of the arguments. I went back to the original works and became aware of them and was inspired to, do my own viewing of the original source material that was integrated in that.
And,
but
you'd think that would be one of the reasons that like Hollywood would want people to use this stuff. They don't think of it that way though. I have found that the best workaround for getting those kinds of samples available to me without having to worry about whether they're clear or not is you generating them with AI. And then dumping them through a ton of effects. It sounds good instead of sounding like just AI, like monotoning its way through a phrase.
There are some very good speech synthesizers, and we have certainly name-checked SpeakJet and Deck Talk and all the others over the years, and they all have their own personalities and histories and stuff. I wanted to mention one thing Swords and Synthesizers said. Hey, over in the YouTube chat, the reminder that royalty for the big silent challenge with royalty-free content is if some other artist has already published extensive use of it. that is one of the weird things that comes up. And it's right up, I think, what maybe Miss Crystal has talked about,
Yeah,
in
and
that
that's always one of my biggest worries.
Content ID has somebody else's song with that loop in it. You're going to get demonetized. That's probably how it goes down with non-humans in the loop more than with actual people in it. But that's an interesting little wrinkle in the, you bought a sample that you are cleared to use in a commercial product and resell, no problem. And you've added stuff on top of it in all the ways that Phoenix was conscious of doing. And so did somebody else, and theirs sold 1 million copies, and then it sold 10 million, and they're the ones now claiming a strike on you as if, because Content ID recognized it from their song, as if it was their song, which is not. You didn't sample their song. You both sampled the same thing, and there you are. It's weird. Maybe easier to just not use that shit.
Yes, and
I don't know.
that's kind of the side of the equation that I have ended up on, because
Yeah.
by not using stuff that could potentially become risky, I avoid things that are risky.
I think maybe there's a subtractive approach too, in that you start with all this shit in there and then rebuild it on your own. I mean, again, I'm
Yeah, that'd
talking
be a
about
great approach, actually.
talking about decades of absolutely. I'm going to sample an entire chunk of a song, loop it, and put it in my tune, and that is fine. That is inspirational. It's recontextualization. It's transformative. It does into maybe a couple of decades of I'm not going to do that because of troubles, but like respect for people who do that and get inspired and create music. But it's a lot to think about. I do we have anything else that we wanted to say on this sort of topic? I mean, we've gone around a lot of areas of it. I don't even know what the topic started out as, but
We may have beaten this up a bunch.
good.
Yeah, this would be a great place to start something new.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things that we wrote down at the beginning, which we've touched on. I mean, certainly the VST, Brett's streaming setup, we've talked about them. But Rob also mentioned the topic of getting PC audio out. I don't know if anybody else is looking in the YouTube chat, but maybe there's some simple stuff that we can get to, not too mired in the technology, just to talk about how to do these things. And I'm going to talk about my setup just briefly, hopefully in a simple way. If I want to play guitar to the stream, I use my mixer. My mixer happens to be a USB device. It is also a audio card. It's an input output thing. It's a digital mixer. But my mixer has the speakers in the control room, and it also has the thing that Zoom and FaceTime and WhatsApp and Discord listen to, the microphone in those apps. Two separate things. They're different. Pink color, that goes to the chat, the chat apps. Gray color, that goes to the speakers. Totally unrelated. The other one, hopefully, if things are configured right, doesn't go to the other. And, that way I can just feed anything I'm doing into the chat thing. Right now, the pink bus has my microphone. That's it. It also, it has Ableton. Ableton's in it, but Ableton's not running, so I wouldn't actually play guitar. But that keeps it pretty simple and straightforward. So it's just like it's a 2-bus thing. My main bus is the mix as you'd expect it, and the aux bus is what all the stream stuff listens to. It's a step extra complication, but my microphone that's selected in Zoom right now, microphone, is that aux bus. So quite simply, if I want Zoom to hear that shit, I just turn the pink fader up and the pink noise goes to the thing. Keeps it simple. A lot of people do it with a separate machine, keeping it separate. A lot of people do it with a standalone mixer that has cables to do this. Mine happens to be doing it over USB because it's a USB connected mixer. I find that to be super convenient. The less audio cables to pick up hum and stuff, the better. However, it's pretty opaque. not being able to see the connections and not being able to see where the plugs plug in does get in the way. So I've already not kept it short. I apologize. But the trick for me to assign anything, including this Zoom call, back to itself, watch out for that. That's fun. Is main mix, totally separate aux mix. That's what my chats listen to. And when somebody can't hear me, they're like, you're not muted, but I can't hear you. It's because I neglected to turn it up on the pink bus, or the app FaceTime forgot that it's supposed to be listening to bus 1, 2. Yeah, it is simply a matter of routing all of my sound sources coming into the mixer, Rob, and the apps as they can be presented to the mixer to a dedicated bus that all the streaming things listen to. However, again, I'm sorry this isn't a short, pithy little thing to say, but I love this shit. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Most of the apps have share my screen and it grabs system audio just fine. So this would be redundant. If I went into Zoom's share my screen right now, which I'm not going to do, and checked the box that says and share system audio or that Windows audio, macOS is fine with it. It'll pipe it in. There's other things that happen that I don't want, so I don't do it that way. Muting source inputs and routing things that I can't see and losing level meters and control. So you don't have to do what I do. Almost, let's say Discord, WhatsApp, Zoom, FaceTime, successfully, once they are hearing audio, grab your system audio when you do the screen share and check also take audio successfully. And that keeps it even simpler. You don't have to worry about it. But if you're doing DAW stuff and you got your synthesizers and all that coming in your mixer, you probably want more control. So you do it the way that I'm talking about, and don't let the apps do the system audio sharing. Roll your own. Brett, topic still. Am I talking your language?
You are. And Rob, I'll tell you another thing to keep in mind for me right now is I'm trying to figure out how much I like this. So I'm not jumping in full with both feet. I'm kind of testing the waters. With that said, this kind of came up. It's come up a couple of times in regards to my mic audio in Zoom, and it's also come up in my interest towards sharing a little bit more about how I go through the creative process, just because it seems to be helpful. I'm perfectly happy not doing any of this. I am an introvert at the end of the day. But with that said, what I'm trying to do is I'm using OBS for where it applies to Twitch and whatnot, and that's working well. You're right about it doing a better job streaming. And because I'm trying to avoid feedback, and because ASIO instruments appear in my DAW differently than Windows, the mixer, which I have and have configured for the DAW, which is the same mixer Raziel's talking about here, it presents itself very differently. And so what I'm having to do, like in the DAW, if I want to listen to one of the synthesizers or whatever, I know exactly what port it's plugged into, have it labeled, sit there and be like, okay, cool, I need to put you in 15 and 16.
I want to put an underscore under have it labeled. That is where the difference is in some of this. If you can put it into a thing that says this is my DX7, it's that much better. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And in FL Studio, this setup works great. I get into the Windows side of it though, and the mixer appears differently. And it's a software thing. It's no longer dealing with ASIO instruments, and I can't go to each port. Instead, I have I think it's 8 bound ports. So it's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, or something like that. The challenge is getting something on an ASIO channel saying, I want you to use this USB path on 3 and 4 to say, get to my headphones, right? The mixer hits that, it hits the mixer knows, all right, send that out the headphone jack through the settings and whatnot that I've got, or send it to the main speakers if I go down, 1 and 2. So the next logical thing would say, all right, we use 5 and 6, except 5 and 6 inside of FL Studio is different than what it is in Windows.
Yeah.
And so what I actually had to do was send it back through USB to the mixer on essentially an output channel, which is that 5 and 6 if you want. It's actually, I want to say it actually might be like 17 and 18 at this point inside of FL Studio, which corresponds to the auxiliary port, now 5 and 6, through how I've configured the
hardware output.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, the problem there is that then I can't come back into the same system on the same pathway without creating a feedback loop, or have it understandable by the software that's in Windows, Discord, OBS, Zoom. So what I had to do,
Apps that I might add don't speak ASIO. They only
Right.
speak WDM or whatever the Windows thing is. Different
so
universe.
I had a PreSonus device that I wasn't using. So I plugged it up as a separate path coming back into the system. And now it literally leaves one mixer. And what I'm actually doing is listening to the input channels on the PreSonus to get that sound back into the thing I need. And that seems to be working. The caveat there is that I do have to use FL Studio either in a template configuration that I found so far that says, great, just kick on these mics and route it down these pathways, put on the headphones, and you're ready to rock. Or if I'm in a song, I have to build that pathway.
Yep.
And then while everything is routed in FL Studio to go to the main channel, and that is doing whatever it needs to do, whether it be stream out or go to the mains, the secondary path has to go to headphones or something else so that I can hear what's going on.
Yeah,
in
monitoring.
the same way that the audience can.
So fortunately, most of this stuff is pretty well trodden territory in a control room, recording studio, broadcast environment. All this stuff is well taken care of. And also, fortunately, most of the tools are pretty capable of performing these splits, and we don't run into the edge cases where it gets weird. And I don't know, like we're already deep into it and it's already very confusing. I don't know what the solution is to making this stuff logical, making it make sense, because it is so opaque. And we're talking systems that don't share naming spaces, systems where if you call this thing my desk mic, 5 pipes downstream where you've patched it and connected it, that label doesn't surface. You don't see that it is my desk mic. You see that it's USB bus 6 and aux 5, and now Zoom calls it a microphone, and it's a microphone, but that sucks. And what you're talking about where you can label things at every point, it's not places to label these things that's logical. And remembering if you're labeling it as an input or an output or the source or the destination, very confusing, stays confusing. And Rob mentions that OBS probably being more powerful than Zoom. Now you're introducing another thing that has its own vagaries of busing and sending and patching. So you end up with your mic, collect it to an analog thing, to your mixer, which is sending over a USB pipeline to your other device, which is hardware outputted back into another mixer. I mean, just imagine. It's a lot to keep track of. Drawing diagrams is cool to the extent that you can. Keeping familiar with your stuff so that you can hopefully forget about this in a couple of weeks and just have it work is good. But I try not to involve extra devices whenever possible. That is one of the things that I try to do so that when shit is normal and I turn it on, like I don't want to have to launch Ableton Live to make any of this work. That is one of the things. It's a difference with the way that you've approached things, and I totally respect building your main mixer, microphone, DX7, Prophet 5, Emacs, Fairlight. Those are your channels. They appear. Then you relabel them in FL Studio. Fairlight channel. It all lines up. Done. I would love to do that, but then I have to turn FL Studio on just to make a Zoom call, and I'm in hell. Can't do that. I might need to make a phone call that has nothing to do with music, and I kind of want to keep them separate anyway. Who knows? I don't. My system's not perfect by any stretch, and it is more complicated. But it does. This is part of the reason that I've gone with the normal stuff and Zoom stuff, two separate things, and then Ableton is just another sound source on my mixer. I happen to have selected the stereo channels to be my ones because my mixer happens to have some mono and some stereo channels. So the stereo channels like 18, FX1, FX2, FX3 was what they're hard labeled as. Those are things like my other audio interface coming in analog, Ableton Live, Mac OS System, Q. I don't know what Q is in this case, it's reserved, but those are my stereo things that I can bring up and either send to Pink. Again, that's what all the teleconferencing apps here, or I can send it to Gray, and that's coming over the speakers. Choice. The one option that you can do is also have your main fader sent to Pink so that it is post fader, so to speak, so that it would get it automatically. I don't want to do that though, because then I might accidentally send a feedback loop. So that's why I have regular speakers, headphones, all that shit, not separate mixes, and chat apps, telecom apps. Keeps it simple.
Yeah, and it really is for me kind of a function of well, I mean, in every way, it's a function of how I built the studio. Studio is exactly like like you described. It is meant for another bandmate even to come in.
Yeah.
You look at that setup, and that setup works with the DAW, and this machine's one job is that. If I decide I really want to keep going with it, then yeah, it makes perfect sense to involve a second machine. It's not something I've really planned for. So what you're seeing is, all right, is this even a path I want to take? And that's where it's like,
Yep.
I don't want to dump too much into it. I don't want another system yet that I got to maintain before I know that there's
an end to all this madness where you can forget
yeah.
about it. This is the way I feel about it personally.
Or means. I know what the end is. I need the means.
Okay, yeah. But you can be pretty certain that the means are there. Like most of this stuff is powerful enough. And I'm going to be honest, it took years for me to settle on something that stuck in my brain with this. I didn't really change it around and try a lot of stuff, but just to remember which perspective my mixer is talking about when it talks about a send, it looks like it's coming from my computer, but it's actually from the perspective of the mixer. USB sends, USB receives. I don't know which way that goes when I first started doing this. And it took repetition and going back to it, revisiting it to be able to just, okay, sends go to the apps, returns go to the mixer, that kind of thing. And even just saying it that way, now I've said sends to what? Now it's confusing. I think that we've shared a couple of really strong perspectives, and the software workstation centric mixer nexus of your studio, I would love to have mine that way. I think it's a great way of doing it, and I appreciate that you have yours set up that way. And I don't know, I kind of have it like when my Ableton template loads, it's most of the stuff is labeled, and most of my sends are kind of correspond to the things that they're really connected to most of the time, but it's hard to keep up with. And my hardware mixer is the ground truth, so to speak, because the things are physically connected to it, and it makes it harder to have that be ambiguous. So desk mic is called desk mic on channel 5, and that's just where it is. What happens after that? Opaque as fuck. Who knows? But I try to keep it the same and simple. And I see a pink line on desk mic, so I know that you can probably hear me. I'm also seeing the levels go and stuff like that, but at any rate, that's what a mixer does. I don't know, is there anything more like to explore about where you're going with it? Or we can take it offline and like sort of workshop a little bit of stuff too that's beyond the scope of studio public discussion. Yeah? Want to wrap it up? Want to talk about anything else before we jam?
I think I'm good.
Yeah. Poof. Enough of that shit.
Might be in a good
For sure.
spot.
Cheers.
Wait. Yeah. So I don't have a clipboard full of things to paste in, like Carl usually does, and I appreciate that he probably doesn't type those all from memory every time. But definitely check out everybody's Patreon stuff here. Angelspit's on there. That's one of the ways that this thing is arranged and keeps perpetuating. Mine's Ushreek on Patreon. Brett, what do you have that you want to share as a way to see what you're doing?
You can always start with the main website, d3m0nha.com.
Got it. How about you, Ivan?
Ivan Roseland on SoundCloud.
SoundCloud. Sounds good. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, guys, for putting this show. Phoenix, hey, thanks. And everybody for contributing in the chat and everything. It's been a pleasure doing this, and we're going to stop a little bit early. But I think we covered a lot of ground, and I feel like I learned something. I feel like I've been on a journey with y'all. So thanks for that. And until next week, I'm going to see what happens.